We will get started. So, a very warm welcome to everyone who's joining us today. I can see a few hellos. Hello, everyone. Um, so Loretta's in Rochester and Beverly here in sunny Cornwall. I'm heading that way myself at the weekend, so I'm hoping you'll keep some sun for me. A very warm welcome to everyone who's joining us today, whether it's your first time or you've been here a few times before, you are very welcome to be here. I'm Ruth Taylor. I'm the nutritionist with, can't even speak, sorry. I'm the nutritionist with Boots Online Doctor and also a registered nurse. And we really love being here every week with you to really give you some support on your weight loss journeys as much as possible. We bring a new theme every week, and all of these themes are evidence-based and really to get us all thinking very much in this space around what's going on for you, what we can do to support you a little bit more, and really just sharing the evidence around the sort of complexity of that whole weight loss journey and also weight loss maintenance as well. So do say hi in the chat box. I'm very, very pleased to be welcoming Sanam with us today. So Sanam, do say hello.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here today. My name is Sanam Hussain, and I'm a senior independent prescriber and also one of the weight loss leads at Boots Online Doctors. And really excited to be delivering this webinar today.
Brilliant. Thanks, Anam. And we're also joined by Gareth, a member of our amazing team at the Boots Online Doctor. So thank you, Gareth, for being here. Gareth will be keeping an eye on the chat box for us and also sharing lots of resources. Now, if you have brought a question along with you today, please do pop that into the Q&A box. We ideally like you to pop them there just because they're easier for Sanam and I to find at the end of the slide share. We have a few slides that we're going to go through with you today, and then we'll come over to your questions as soon as we've got through those. There aren't many today. We thought questions would be more important, but this is such an important topic. It's all around how we stop that sort of cycle around the whole weight loss, the weight on, the weight off. It is something that can be really challenging. And we have a poll that we're going to share with you any second now. Our polls are completely anonymous. It's really for us to know what's going on for everyone who's joining us today and for us to getting a sense of perspective in terms of where you are on your weight loss journey and what's going on for you. Somebody says I'm very choppy with my connection. I'll move my microphone a little bit closer and see if that's any better. Do let me know. I had to do some gardening to make sure that the connection was reasonable. So I'm hoping it should be okay. Let me know if for any reason the microphone is playing up, and I will see if there's anything else I can do to improve that. Sanam, is it coming through okay?
I think at the moment it's coming through fine, actually. I think it's a bit choppy initially at the start,
Okay. All right.
but
Thank you.
now I
Sorry,
can hear you
everyone.
fine.
Perfect. All right. Let's hope that that's going okay. All right. So let's have a look at what's going on for the poll. So goodness, in terms of the question, have you ever lost and then regained weight? Of the people who've answered, which is over 100, every single one of you has said yes. No, one person has said no. Sorry about that. So 99% of people who've answered have said yes. So we knew that this was going to be a sort of an area of interest for many people and something that many of you may have experienced. It's really helpful to put that context around it. You're not alone at all. We know this is a very common situation that many people find themselves in. And I can put my hand up and say, I join you. I haven't entered the polls. That'd be one more. Where are you now in terms of your weight loss journey? So people, great. We've got a whole across the board. Some people are just getting started, so very warm welcome, and we're here to support you 100%. Quite a few people, some 25% or more, are stuck in a plateau. So really helpful for us to understand that you're stuck. We'll try and talk a little bit around that. Even if the slides don't cover it, I'll make a note that we will pick up on that and maybe give you some tips or some understanding of what might be going on. Started but struggling to maintain consistency. So that's around 30% of you. So that's quite a lot of people today, really helpful. And around 30% of you are feeling motivated and ready to take action. So well done for everybody who's taken part in the poll. It's really helpful for us to see what's going on. and it really is. So people are saying that I'm breaking up. I'm going to disconnect my microphone, Sanam, and see if that's any better. Okay. Oh, now I've disconnected the slides. I love it. I love it when a plan fails. Okay, is that any better?
Seems to be okay for now, Ruth. So if you just
Sorry, everyone. I think we can only blame the British weather, can't we? Okay, so
yeah.
saying it's okay. I'm just going to now share the slides and we should be all tickety boo. Um, okay, let's see where we are. Is that all working now, everyone? Let's hope so. Sorry, well, at least you know we're live and we're human, and yeah, we are very good at making little IT errors. Please bear with. Okay, so let's think about this. So, as we know, many of you have been in the situation where you have lost weight, you've regained it. And I guess, how did that make you feel? Perhaps frustrated, perhaps disappointed, or maybe wondering why, despite all your best efforts, you found yourself back to maybe where you started. We know for many people when they regain weight after a weight loss journey that they won't just gain the weight that they've lost, they may put a little bit more on as well. Um, and for me, I often wonder, have anyone ever sort of added up all those pounds that they've lost and regained over that lifetime? Because I think it can be quite harrowing to consider it, but in a way, we want this to matter to you because we want this not to be your story. So for some people, that might be 1 or 2 stone. For others, it might be several times that amount. And that can feel really disheartening, and we really understand that. When things are going well, it's exciting. You can feel really motivated. You feel in control. You feel like maybe you finally found that magic moment of something that works for you. But then life can happen. Routines can change. Stress might suddenly come along when you weren't expecting it. And what you will often find is that your old habits will creep back in. It might be that they quietly return, or they could return almost with a vengeance. You could like suddenly find stress triggers all of those issues, all of the behaviors that perhaps got you to the point where you were gaining weight. So let's be honest, you are absolutely not alone. And importantly, this is really important for all of us. For anyone in this situation, this is not a sign you failed. For many years, we've been taught how to lose weight. We've been taught that it's all about calories in, calories out. We've never been taught, really and truly, how to maintain that weight loss. So today's webinar is all about understanding why weight gain and why weight regain happens, and importantly, how we can reduce the risk of this happening again, because we want this to be your sort of success story, the story that works for you, not just today in that weight loss moment, but in the long-term maintenance as well. It's so important, isn't it, Sanam? It's sort of like really,
Yeah.
really important.
So one thing, following on from that, one of the biggest questions we do hear is why does the weight keep coming back? And the truth is, there isn't one simple answer. So it's really about a lack of willpower. So weight regain usually just happens because of several different factors which are working together. And the first of those will be biology. So after you've lost weight, your body needs fewer calories than it did before. And for many people, that hunger then increases, and we'll explain why shortly. And the second is behavior. So many of us experience being on a diet for a period of time, and to gradually then return to familiar routines once that diet finishes. And that's really, if you've done sort of our Eat Well webinar, that one sort of explains, so, why we encourage it not to be a diet, but more for long-term lifestyle dietary changes, as opposed to just thinking of it as just a diet to help you lose the weight for the short term. But actually, you want that behaviors in what you're eating to span over for the long term. And finally, there's our environment. So our environment's still there. So we've got work deadlines, family commitments, celebrations, stress, whether that's sort of short little bursts of stress at work or long-term stresses. Got holidays. We all love an all-inclusive holiday where we can eat whatever we want. But the world around us just doesn't change just because we've lost weight. Everything around you will continue to be there. So if you've ever regained weight in the past, I really want to reassure you that this isn't about blame. It's just about understanding the challenges that almost everyone faces when trying to maintain weight loss. The encouraging news is that once we understand those challenges, we can begin to work with them rather than against them. And that's exactly what today's webinar is about.
Very much so, yeah, very
Yeah.
much. And I can see lots of people are having issues with IT today. So whether it's us or whether it's something going on in the wider world, I really apologise for that and hope we overcome those glitches and that you get something to take away with you today. So let's have a think about this, Sanam, what's going on.
Yeah, so now we've looked at why weight regain happens. Let's sort of take a bit of a closer look at what happens inside the body after weight loss, which is really important to sort of understand why you might get weight regain. So many people believe that once they've reached their goal weight, maintaining it should be easy. So it should just be a case of, just carrying on before and just maintaining that. But unfortunately, as many of us probably have already realized, it's not quite that simple. So when you've lost weight, your body becomes smaller, so it naturally needs less energy than it did before. But at the same time, many people notice that their appetite has increased, that your body's natural response to weight loss, that is your not body's natural response to weight loss. So it's trying to encourage you to restore that energy that is lost. So your body thinks it needs to go back up to the weight you were before. So that's your body's natural response at trying to regain sort of that weight and put you back onto that weight that it thinks you should be. But for some people, also find that feeling hungrier, they might expect or think about food more often. If weight has been lost quite quickly, or if you've lost muscle as well as fat, maintaining your new weight can feel even more challenging because muscle helps support your dietary energy expenditure. So if you have more muscle, generally you will end up using more energy and in terms of energy, you might term it as calories or whatever. So you might end up burning more calories just by having more muscle. So the important message here is that this isn't a sign that you've done something wrong. It's not a lack of motivation or a lack of willpower. It's a normal biological response that many people experience after weight loss. And the good news is that once we understand these changes, we can then begin to work with our biology rather than feeling like we're constantly fighting against it. Um, and your body responds to weight loss by increasing appetite and reducing energy needs, which can make maintaining that weight loss even more challenging. So, if biology makes maintaining weight loss harder, the obvious question then becomes, why does our body respond this way? So, let's look at one theory that helps explain that.
Yeah, very much so. And I think this is a really important, and I guess what we know and what you were saying, Zanam, is that um really one of the things that we've heard of or are beginning to understand in the public arena and from the evidence and the research is that there's something called the set point theory. So this is sort of like a biological system that happens to help regulate our body weight. And it's almost like our body or is quite primate in how it responds to everything that happens in it. We're still very primitive. We still have the same physiology, biology that our ancestors had. Nothing really dramatic has changed. So our body will respond to weight loss, as Sanam was saying, by increasing our appetite and reducing the amount of energy that we need day to day. These responses have evolved over many years. So it's a protection mechanism. It's sort of like our body thinks that the weight that we were at before we lost weight is the weight that we or our bodies individually are safe at. So it's trying to find a way to keep us safe. We don't know that's happening. It's going on quietly in the background. And although researchers are really debating how these mechanisms work, we know that many people experience that increased hunger, the lower energy after losing weight. Now, one of the things that we're really keen on, and we will talk about this, I'm sure, today and in many other webinars, is why it's really important to maintain that muscle mass in this whole process. Because if we lose fat and muscle, our calorie requirements change quite dramatically. We're going to find it much harder to maintain that weight loss. This is why we talk all the time about muscle strength. It's not about becoming a bodybuilder, it's about eating in the way that we preserve our muscle. So this isn't anything to do with willpower. And I think the message has always been we've failed, we've got it wrong, we're weak, we're disastrous. Um, and also, I guess the key thing here is it doesn't mean that weight regain is inevitable. It just means we have to be switched on to what's going to happen. We have to be really aware and we have to be ready, I think. We need that different approach to how we lost weight. We need an approach to weight maintenance. And it's a different way of thinking about things and understanding why these factors are so important to us. So rather than feeling frustrated or blaming ourselves, we can start working with our biology instead of constantly feeling like we're fighting it, because we are not to blame here. But we do need to use the knowledge and the evidence that's out there, and we need to become quite savvy, I would say, wouldn't you, Sanam? I think it's about really like being
Yeah.
switched on to what's going to happen. Yeah, completely. Otherwise, we just end up in that real loop. So let's look at what's going on here on this slide. And I think I just wanted to make it really simple and straightforward and what the difference is. The difference between people who successfully maintain their weight loss and those who struggle isn't really massively different. It isn't about people who never slip up. They do. The difference is what happens next. So we're all going to have those moments where things don't go to plan. We've eaten off piece. We've joined our friends. We've had a lovely sort of weekend doing all the things we want to do. But we need to keep that voice, that awareness going. And we want to lose that. I'm on a diet. I'm losing weight. That mindset needs to shift, because what happens, we know, is when you have that mindset is that you then come off the diet and the mindset shifts to completely almost like going back into a cruising gear. We know from all of the evidence and all of the research is that we don't have the wriggle room individually to do that. So successful maintainers are the ones that notice those small changes really early on. Perhaps the scales have crept up by a pound or two. Maybe their clothes feel a little bit tighter, or they realize they've drifted away from the habits and routines that helped them to lose weight in the first place. The key difference is we don't want you to panic, and we also don't want you to wait. We know that when people are successfully maintaining weight, they're keeping their eye on the ball. They also don't tell themselves, I'll start again on Monday, because we know that that is something that for many people almost is the Monday might never come, or I'll deal with it after Christmas. Instead, they make a few small corrections along the way. They maybe go back to planning their meals, they go back to prioritizing protein, and maybe they put a little bit more activity into their day. Now, that's not something that everyone can manage, but generally we can manage two or three of those things. And actually, we don't have to be perfect. This is never about perfection when we're in this room. This is about reality. So we're not expecting perfection, but we are wanting you to bring that attention back to where you are, not overreacting to it, not underreacting. And more importantly, this isn't about judgment. This is just about seeing it as feedback. So if you've done something at work and you've done it wrong, quite often now we're not in the world where we beat one another up about that. We just take it as a learning opportunity. The same at school. And I think this is the attitude we need to adopt here, because really these are just learning opportunities. The reality is nobody is going to be perfect. Successful weight maintenance isn't about never slipping up. It's about recognizing those moments really early on and just putting the correction in. Now, this sounds really realistic to me. I think this is doable. How do you feel? I'd be really interested to know. Um, and yeah, if there are links that we're sharing, please don't worry. We will share them after the event in an email. So anybody who's signed up for today will get an email with those links in as well. I will make sure of that. So Sanam, this makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's interesting. You mentioned what with the panic, when people do gain weight, and that's something we get loads of messages about who are, people who are really worried that want to stop GLP-1 medication, that what's going to happen. And one of the biggest concerns that we do hear from people is taking the GLP medications, what happens when I reduce the dose or stop taking it? So the first thing I like to reassure you about is that it's completely normal to notice some changes. So it would be really unrealistic if you were to think that, if we were to advise patients that you're not going to notice any changes, because you will. You might find that your hunger gradually returns. So, although GLP-1 medication does stay in your system even after you've stopped for around about a month, I would say, maybe a little bit more in some people. So, you might find that once you stop, you don't get the full-on hunger, but that can gradually increase, once you go past that month. And food might become more appealing again by then, and you might get larger portions, so more possible and more manageable. You might find yourself having to make more conscious food choices that you did while taking the medication that you didn't really have to think about as much. None of this means that you failed. It just reflects, it's a reflection on your body's now adapting. So you stop medication, your body's now going to adapt to not having that medication. And that's why we encourage people to really think of GLP-1 medication as part of the journey rather than the whole solution. So when you're on the medication, that gives you an opportunity. It reduces that hunger, quietens that food noise, and makes behavioral changes easier. So, but in the long term, the success comes from habits you built alongside it. So that's why we really want you, once you're on GLP-1 medication, you've got that space and that room to make those changes to your routine, to make those food choices, those better food choices for long-term weight management and increase that movement and, start planning. And then the confidence that develops while the medication is supporting you is what will take you through to helping you maintain that weight. So whether you eventually stop treatment because you've reached your goals, so a lot of people stop treatment because, they've either reached their goals or because, they might be having a surgery, they might get side effects. Cost also as well, it can be quite expensive. It's not really, maintainable for everyone. Or maybe you're in discussion with the healthcare team who've advised you to stop. So those habits really become your foundation to keeping that weight off. And that's why I spend so much time talking about sustainable lifestyle changes alongside medication, because that is what's going to keep you maintaining that weight and follow you in the long term. So let that medication, once you're on GLP-1 medication, some people might think they're going to be on it for years, which is fine. But some people might find actually after a year, they can't afford it anymore. Or, then we want you to make those changes as you go along, when you have that space to, and then just keep up with those changes on the long term.
Yeah, very much so. And also, just to say, although we know a lot of people who are here today possibly will be taking a medication, this webinar is also for people who aren't taking those medications. So don't feel you're in the wrong place. All of the information we're sharing is just as relevant, apart from maybe the food noise being dampened down. But realistically, if you're eating a sort of balanced plate and you're putting that protein on regularly, you should notice that the food noise will dial down just with that simple approach. So following something like the core eating plan or the GLP-1 eating plan or the Mediterranean style of eating, all of those approaches that we've written for you that Gareth hopefully can share the links. And if for any reason they don't open on your phone or laptop, we will share those in an email after with you. But all of those approaches are also designed very much to work alongside either a GLP-1 medication, or if you're somebody who's just managing this through dietary and lifestyle changes alone. So please don't feel that we think everybody needs to be on a medication. That's not the case, is it really, Sanam?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So a final thought for this week. So really, weight loss maintenance is absolutely a skill. It's something to put that thought, to put the planning in. We often plan our weight loss journeys. What we fail to do, what the research 100% tells us that we fail to do, is we very much generally prepare to not consider what we're going to do to maintain. We have had this whole sort of 30 years of a diet industry that hasn't built the maintenance in, and that landscape is changing now. So this is why we think this is such an important area to be talking about today, and hopefully it's helpful for you to start thinking, even if you're on the beginning of your journey, which I know was about 25 to 30% of you joining us today are on that beginning. If you're somebody, if you're in that sort of 99% who've lost weight in the past and regained it, this is really relevant, because that whole process of losing weight, regaining it, if we gain weight quickly, we will put fat on more easily than we will gain muscle. our body composition changes. We become less metabolically active. We will find it harder to lose weight. We will find it easier to gain weight. This is such an important yo-yo cycle that we want to help you move away from. This is really important. So even if you're not quite at that maintenance stage, if you're in the middle or if you're at the beginning or heading to the end, this is relevant. And actually taking all of the steps is really important. So it's about doing all of the things that you can do alongside. So the great news is it is achievable, and we know that. So hopefully that's helpful. If you've got any questions that don't make sense about what we've been talking to you about today, do ask. We're here to answer those questions. We've got our final poll now, which we're going to be asking you what you might be doing differently over the next week. So Gareth, if you've got an opportunity, could you share that? And then we'll follow that quickly with the weight loss phase, although I think we actually know that, so we won't worry about that. So let's have a look. Sanam, can you see what everybody's thinking they're going to be doing?
I think at the moment, being more active seems to be a popular one, followed, changing
Yeah,
patterns. I think being more active seems to be the key one, and planning my meals.
yeah. So that is really good. Planning meals is we have a whole webinar on meal planning that might be helpful to rewatch if you've not seen that. The activity, we've got some great videos, some recordings of how to get active or introduce activity at whatever stage of activity you're in, even if you're somebody who really struggles with activity because of your physical health problems, there may be something there for you to just start adopting very gently. Activity isn't the thing that's necessarily going to help you lose weight, but it is the thing that will help you maintain that weight loss. So that's why it becomes an important factor. So well done for thinking about what you're going to do. Maybe write that down and actually remind yourself. A lot of you are going to practice being kinder to yourselves, and I think that's a really important step as well. So well done for thinking about what you might do over the next few days. So let's move on. We've got a few webinars coming up that we're going to be here on the 27th of July and the 3rd of August. We won't be here on the 10th of August, and we will be back again on the 17th. So we're just missing 1 week over the summer holidays. So hopefully that won't be too disruptive. We're now going to come to your questions, and we have generally started to organise those through that upvoting, but there's a few less questions this week, so we should be able to work through as many as we have at the moment. Feel free to ask more. We're in the Q&A box, so we're going to work our way through those, and then we will see if there's anything that we need to pick up from the chat box, but we'll always now start with the Q&A box. So, somebody's asking if I can't manage to eat all of, I'm going to do the updating thing actually. So let's start with the updates. Sanam, I've just changed my
Ah, yes, got it.
yeah,
Have to
perfect. So
helping.
we're both on the same page, hopefully. So somebody's saying they've recently started the We Gave You pill and the food noise has definitely stopped. I do wonder, however, what happens when I have lost the weight that I want to lose? Do I slowly decrease the dose? I would be on by then. Do I need to take We Gave You pills forever to ensure I don't regain the weight? That's a great question, and it's been upvoted by a lot of people. So lots of people want to know what's going on with this. Sanam, I'm handing straight over to you.
So with this, like we've discussed throughout the, whole webinar, different people will stop treatment at different periods, and some people want to continue, which is fine to continue for long term, whether that's for life or whatever. There's no limit on how long you can continue. The different factors that might affect you, cost and so on. Um, but after you've lost the weight, like we've sort of gone through in the webinar, it's really important that you embed these eating patterns and this increase movement and resistance exercising to help build that muscle mass, which will make it easier if you do decide to stop. So you don't have to be on any medication for life. That's, obviously that will be an individual choice, and that might be something you want to discuss with whoever's prescribing it for you. It's not a must, but if you do decide you want to stop the medication, you need to make sure that you have all these practices embedded before you, I would normally say, make sure you have them embedded before you decide to stop, because that will make it an easier journey when you do decide to come off. And like we said, you will get some of those food noises come back. It will be, a little bit trickier. Some people it's easier, some people, it's a little bit trickier. You get food noises, the hunger comes back, but having those things in place will really help you long term. In regards to, think you put, wonder how what happens when I've lost the weight. Slowly decrease the dose. So yeah, so that depends again. Probably talk to your prescriber and how they think the best way to sort of reduce dosages and stuff is. But we normally do say sort of like decreasing your dose monthly, which is normally okay for some. Some people want to stop just straight away. They don't need to reduce the doses. It's up to you really. That's something you can sort of decide. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say from the research, it looks like to get that maintenance working really well, sort of lowering a medication dose slowly over a few months can really help to support you to maintain. And also, as you're titrating
Mm,
down, the food noise will come in more slowly and more gradually rather than in a big whoosh. So
mm,
that also may be helpful. But it's also then really making sure you're nailing your plate and you're doing that movement, which is sort of like about moving your muscles. So it doesn't have to be a big workout at the gym, but things like squats or some press ups against the wall or some press ups on your work surface, all of those things may be really helpful because it's about your muscles working for you and firing them up. And just think about that, how can I fire up my muscles? And if you do that throughout the day, it doesn't have to be a big segue of activity. It could be 2 or 3 minutes, 10 times a day, and actually just getting those muscles to move for you is going to be something that will really help that maintenance. And we can't really, it's not about becoming a bodybuilder. It's about getting your body and your physiology to work for you. And then also fill up on the fiber, so those lovely vegetables, fiber-rich vegetables really help in terms of satiety, stopping that food noise, that with the protein and a little bit of fat. So following that core meal plan at this stage becomes really, really important. And keeping those sort of high sugar foods, the sort of treat foods, the baked goods, the pastries, they become your treat foods. You can't say you'll never have them, but really put them into perspective and have them less often. We all enjoy them, is how often we enjoy them, I think. So it's sort of like when plan your treats and gradually just start with a very small amount of treats a week, maybe once a week. And then if that works and you're maintaining successfully, you can say, right, I'll maybe try have 2 treats a week, see how it goes. Maybe start thinking about changing your treats. Maybe a treat might be a trip out, getting your nails done, seeing a friend. Treats don't have to just be about food. So I think we've answered that pretty fully there between us, Sanam. So shall we move on?
I'll do the second one.
Yeah.
Second one is if I can't manage to eat all, oh no, sorry. I have almost reached the end of my journey. I'm on 7.5 milligrams and going down doses. What I want to know, when I reach the lowest dose of Manjaro, what will be the maintenance dose and how long will I be able to continue with it? So the maintenance dose, I mean, it's obviously mentioned quite a lot by lots of patients. You hear a lot about maintenance dose. So the maintenance dose is really the dose that, ultimately you can maintain your weight on. So that's not the same in everybody. So some people might find that the lowest dose is fine for them, and that's the dose they can maintain their weight on. So that's where you're not going to gain weight and you're not losing weight. So that's what I'm going to say. When you're reducing down, that gives you the opportunity to sort of gradually reduce and find that maintenance dose as well. So what is the dose that you're not going to lose weight and you're not going to gain weight? So that is going to be different for different people. So it's just about finding the dose, and whatever the maintenance dose is, you can stay on that for as long as you wish. So as long as you feel that you want to stay on it, there's no sort of limit on how long you can be on these medications for. Don't know if you've got anything to
No, I
add,
think
Ruth, or
that's about right. We can always pick up if
yeah.
that's not clear for anyone. So somebody is asking,
Mm.
does your set point change over time after weight loss if you preserve muscle? Yes, absolutely. We know that your set point will and can, or can and will change over time. It is just about giving it the time. I think we almost expect all of these things to come into play almost immediately because we perhaps haven't really thought about it before. So I think our body just needs time to almost hold still. And if you like it, we often talk about plateaus. I think we've got some questions here today about plateaus. But a plateau, we think, may be a really positive thing in terms of your body almost recalibrating your new set point down. So it does happen. Um, I just think we have to work with it. You almost like have to be at that. I would say when you hit your goal weight, you want to allow yourselves 2 or 3 kilos or maybe up to half a stone sort of wriggle room. So your goal weight is a goal sort of boundary, sort of like say between 10 and 10 and a half stone, whatever is relevant to you. So you sort of almost like have a range rather than a specific number on the scales. So that also when you get on the scales, if you're still checking on the scales, which for many people works really well and for others less well. So it's all about what is right for you. You're not really thrown if the number isn't a specific number, because that can be very destabilizing, especially in the early days of maintenance. So really, yeah, just think about that. And I think it is just about working through and just allowing that to evolve. And your set point, the research says your set point can absolutely reduce. So it's just about giving your body the physiological space for its biology and its physiology to change, really, and for everything to just settle down. So, yeah, I think we have to learn patience in this one, don't we, Sanam?
Yeah, there's so many different people have different sort
Mm.
of periods which they stay in a plateau as well, and different set points and how long these things take. And like we've discussed the biology, everybody has a different biology, so that varies between individuals. So it's difficult to say how long these points will be, or when the set point is going to be reset, or how long you're going to be in a plateau for. It's just about just making sure you just maintain all the progress you've made, and it's about patience, really, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's about making sure that your body composition is really supporting you for that maintenance.
Mm,
Don't forget, if you have more muscle than you started, so say your body composition changes, your body fat percentage drops, your muscle fat percentage maintains, your body fat percentage is going to be lower than it started. Your muscle percentage will be higher than started. So actually, in terms of calories to play with, you'll have a few more because muscle burns calories fast.
mm,
More, you have, I think muscle is 9 calories per gram. So yeah, anyway, you have more muscles, you have more calories to play with a higher muscle mass, basically, or higher muscle percentage. So it's really worth just thinking about slow weight loss. So you build your muscle during that process. And if you don't just come off the diet, don't do that sort of race to getting back to normal, not having to think about this again, because we know that that is the situation which is likely to lead to the weight gain. So all of those things become really important. Um, Somebody's asking about eating and calories and what to do if they can't manage to eat enough in a day, and should they focus on protein or carbs or vegetables? So it's a great question and one that lots of people want to know about. I'll start and then jump in, Sanam. I would say prioritize protein and veg. Those are your absolute things that must go on your plate every time. In terms of protein, you want to be working with that very simple equation of 1 gram per kilogram of body weight per day. So if you weigh 90 kilos, then think about having around 90 grams. If you're really active in the gym, or if you're going through huge hormonal shifts in terms of life stages, you might want to relook at that and base your hunger around your protein, around your hunger. If you're really finding you're hitting that 90 grams, if that's your target, and you're really hungry still, then really think, okay, am I eating slowly? Am I taking time out to eat? Am I eating enough vegetables to fill me up with the fiber? If I'm doing all of those things right consistently for 4 or 5 or 6 days, and I'm still feeling really hungry, then nudge that protein up a little bit higher. And don't forget to put in a little bit of healthy fat. So if you're really struggling to eat all of the recommended calories, if you're taking weight loss medication, have a look at what dose you're on and whether there's room to bring that dose down, because actually eating well during this journey is really important. Sometimes we find people are on higher doses and really are struggling to eat, so we might then recommend they reduce their dose in that situation. If you're not taking a weight loss medication, then that's not relevant, obviously. But also, really, calories are weird because they don't really tell you much about food. So follow the GLP-1 meal plan if you're taking a GLP-1 medication. If you're not, follow the core meal plan. Base your food around those real foods, foods that actually don't come in loads of packaging as much as you possibly can. It doesn't have to look pretty. It can be as messy as anything. You don't have to become a chef. You can cook and then have leftovers for a couple of days, make it really simple. You can buy pre-cooked meats, or you can boil up a few eggs, or you can get a big block of tofu and eat that. It's whatever really works for you. It's not about perfection in that sense either. It's just about getting that plate balanced as much as you can. I hope that makes sense. I think we really do need to help you understand. And the other thing is hydration. That's so important too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you'd want to say about that, Sanam?
No, if it's something that, if you're on any medications, like weight loss medications, stopping you from getting those calories, I think like Ruth mentioned, either look at decreasing your dose. And even if the way that it works, it can make you feel full. So like quickly, it takes longer, the food moves in your passage slower. So you might want to just break those meals up, or just maybe try, if you're doing 3 meals a day, maybe just have like sort of make this a bit smaller so you can actually get that calorie intake in a day as well. You can try that. That might help. So
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point. So somebody's asking, is full fat or low fat dairy better? Thinking about Greek yogurt in particular, always go with the protein level on the packaging. I think when you have significant amounts of weight loss, to be thinking about the lower fat option in this situation is probably better. And just because it can make a little bit of a difference. So yeah, would you agree, Sanam?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay,
I've got
what for you?
another one. So I've got been with Manjaro, 15 milligrams since Jan, have peaked from 94 to the lowest 85, but since it went up by up to 88 again, then it seems to have plateaued. Should I consider maybe changing medication? I'm thinking my body knows Manjaro now, has sort of adapted, and I'm not losing weight anymore and just paying so much money with no results. Would be 1 year this end July now. So it's not unusual for, whichever medication you're on, to you plateauing. So I think it's that a lot of people get demotivated or the medication's not working. The best way to know whether the medication is really working for you is to sort of figure out, are you getting that food noise? Are you feeling hungrier? Um, if you are, that food noise isn't there and you're not feeling as hungry and it seems to be working well, then you could continue. It could just be a plateau that you've got. So it's a plateau effect. Manjaro is the slightly more effective GLP-1 medication compared to, say, maybe Wegovy or some of the other ones. So, if you wish to change, you can, but I would probably say maybe, speak to your clinician, whoever prescribes your medication. If that's us, you can message in. We could see your history and to see what sort of doses you've been taking and how long you've been on it and so on. But it's not unusual for you to plateau whilst you're on GLP-1 medication. Also, that's not, unusual, and that can last months. It's just whether, are you still getting the food noise is the main things to recognize. Are you still getting food noise? Are you feeling full? Or are you getting hungry now? That's more of an indication of where your body's sort of going with the medication. So.
Yeah, and how are you feeling in yourself? How's your energy? How are your clothes fitting? All of those things. What's your sense of well-being? Um, and I guess, are you eating enough? I think one of the things we sometimes talk about is, not eating too much. That's very much the diet culture, isn't it? Sometimes we also need to think, am I
Mm.
eating enough? So it's worth just checking in. We've got a BMR calculator link that we could send to you. We're not really advocating calorie counting all the time, but if you've hit a plateau and you're absolutely stuck, beginning to see weight creeping back on, it's just worth checking out. Because as Sanam was saying in the slide presentation, as our bodies reduce in size, we generally need less calories to maintain that weight. But equally, if we don't eat enough, that can make it very difficult to lose the weight as well, because our body will do that safety netting thing where it will hold on. So it's really important to just know where you're at. So sometimes just checking in, maybe tracking something through something like MyFitnessPal for a few days. You can do a free version of that and just see where you end up. It can be really helpful just to get your sense of perspective. And if you are introducing all sorts of new foods, that can be helpful too, just to get your familiarity and confidence too. So see how you go with that. And also with the hydration, it's been really hot, and a lot of people I know are drinking a lot more water, which is great, but many people still aren't. And dehydration can be one of those things that can really prevent weight loss. So really just check in with yourself and make sure that you're adequately hydrated as well, because that can be a really big game changer for many people. And if there's anyone here today who's had a plateau, you've come through the other side and you found things that have worked for you, please share them in the chat box, because you are also experts in this story too. So we love to hear from you. So please share your tips as well. Okay, so somebody's saying, when you talk about maintaining muscle mass, is this overall muscle mass or is it skeletal muscle? My skeletal muscle is increasing, but overall muscle mass, which for me is very high, seems small losses, these small losses. I think it's about looking at your whole body composition. So we have muscle in your skeleton as well. So yeah, you're thinking about the whole thing. It sounds like you're doing well if you're building that skeletal muscles. That sounds really positive. And we have insulin receptors in all of those muscle areas in the whole of the body. So you want them to be working for you. So that sounds great. Sanam, anything you'd add on that?
No, I think that's, yeah, it's just overall really, because you just, like you said, it's the how many calories your body will burn with more, whether that's skeletal or muscle mass. So yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, great. Somebody's saying that they feel like they look bloated or almost like they look pregnant while they're taking Manjaro, and they find that very disheartening. I'm sorry to hear that. Look bloated every day. If people don't know me, they would be asking how far along I am, what do I do? Any advice or exercises? Gosh, that's so horrible. And yeah, I'm sure you're not alone with that. So, Sanam, I think bloating is not unusual, is it?
Yeah, it's not unusual and it's a common side effect. So, I mean, if you are one of our patients, just message us and we can send you like a sort of treatment advice and stuff on how to deal with those side effects. And yeah, again, it's not unusual. It's just the way the medication works, and because it works, moves food through your system a little bit slower, you can get, quite winded. So there is sort of over-the-counter medications you can try that sort of help reduce that wind and bloatedness. So I'd probably try those and eat, make sure you're maintaining that water intake. And just important, just again, with what you're eating, just, I think we've got the link for the Mediterranean type plan. So try and stick with that. It could be the foods as well. But it's not unusual for this to sort of happen. And it could happen more so once you sort of increase doses if you are on Manjaro. So it can settle with time. So your body does start getting used to some of the side effects. So it can settle with time. If you find it is, you're on a higher dose, you might want to look to reduce your dose. Again, speak to your prescriber whether that be a suitable option based on sort of other factors and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And just make sure your bowels are working. So if you're finding that your bowels are a bit sluggish, maybe think about what fiber rich foods you're eating. So maybe think about adding something like some chia or some flax seeds to your meals. You can actually pre-soak them and add them in so they're sort of gelatinous, and that can really help. Or even kiwi fruit can be really helpful with getting your bowels moving. So we know a lot of people can find that they do become a little bit sluggish or constipated. So it's really worth just checking in what's going on to see how it goes.
Got another one. Let's see if that's upvoted. So, hello, I'm maintaining now. I've been for 6 months. I plan to stay on Manjaro. Will Boots continue to support me for years with maintenance as I can't come off them? I'm 65 years old and I know I need this medication. I mean, if you've got concerns like that, just feel free to honestly just message us. We can respond to that. But like I said before, there's no particular limit on the amount of time you can be on this medication. The choice to come off will be between you and your prescriber, and just take into consideration other factors. But generally, there's no sort of upper limit on how long you can be on these. So I would probably be reassured in knowing that you don't need to panic or anything. But if you do ever decide to come off, we can obviously help you with that.
Okay, so a couple of comments in the chat box which are really helpful. Somebody said they've plateaued a couple of times and then found that they've started losing weight again. Somebody said that they, Andy, you said you plateaued for 4 weeks, did a recheck on your food intake and activity. You were off track and have got it back on track. So well done. It's really helpful for everyone here to hear that as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. There's a question in the chat box, and also relevant and related is the whole sugar story, I think. So craving sugar, somebody's saying they're craving sugar. Somebody's mentioned in the chat box that they're a sort of fridge raider at night. So I'd really bring your attention to our webinars that we hold on the How to Eat webinar, which is happening on the 17th of August. And then the week after, or 2 weeks after that, is the What to Eat webinar, or the What to Eat. So we've got two webinars all around food, the How to Eat, the What to Eat, and all covering all of those types of areas. In terms of sugar, we really want you to be thinking about that being something that's quite minimal on a day-to-day level in your diet. And the same would really apply to the sugar alternatives, so the sweetened foods. The reason we recommend not to have either is because we want you to get to a point where your blood sugars are balancing really well and you are producing less insulin. Insulin is great. It really helps to maintain our blood glucose. It has a really important role. But one of the other things that happens when we're producing a lot of insulin in response to sugar, or in response to snacking on sugary drinks or sweets, or even the low sugar with sugar alternatives, is our body will see that we're having something sweet. And so it will respond by producing insulin. If we don't have loads of insulin to mop up, then, or a lot of sugar to mop up, even if it's an artificial sweetener, we'll have this response. We will end up storing fat, because insulin is also a fat storage hormone. So we want to be eating in a way where we maintain our insulin to be working for us in the way it needs to, but not to be producing too much. This is why the core meal plan, the GLP-1 meal plan, and the Mediterranean style of eating have all been created to help you bring all of those things together in a way that makes it really simple, hopefully, and achievable. For many people, it isn't simple. It involves huge changes. If it's huge changes, just do one step at a time. If you're going to have a sugary snack or a sugary drink, tuck it in at the end of a meal so that you've got the lovely protein there to mop up that effect and really start winding it down and having less as much as you can. So somebody's saying they have a boiled sweet. One boiled sweet in a day isn't going to offset all of the brilliant work that you're doing. So this isn't about being perfect or never having. It's about timing. It's about thinking intelligently around it. And if you're noticing that you're craving all of the time, then I would say something's out in the way that you're eating, or your stress is really high, or your sleep is really low, or all of those things make a difference to how we crave. So really start thinking about, why am I craving? Is it because I've had something sweet and my blood sugars have dipped, and so my response is to then start craving? Is it because I'm really stressed and I need to manage my stress differently? Is it because my sleep has been quite poor? All of these things will have an effect, and for each and every one of us, the combination of factors will be different. I'm sorry, that's a very long answer, and I hope that wasn't too much, but I think it's about getting all of that balance as much as you can. So it's balance all the way. And somebody shared a lovely chia jam recipe. Thank you
I
so
know, I saw that. I was like, that's very
much.
interesting.
Sounds amazing. If you've got a recipe that you can share, Chris, we would love you to share that. Sounds amazing. I don't have one I can share to hand. Okay, somebody's saying they're struggling to lose weight on Manjaro. Would they be able to lose weight taking a different medication such as Wegovy? Sana, many thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, some people do respond better to Wegovy instead of Manjaro. Clinically, in the trials, Manjaro has been shown to give more weight loss than Wegovy, but some people might respond to different medication differently. So it just depends on individuals as well. So if you find that you're not responding to Manjaro, it could be worthwhile trying Wegovy to see if that, helps. We've found people have different responses to different treatments. So yeah, I would probably, if you're one of our patients, just message in and we could probably recommend, suitable sort of switches over.
Yeah, absolutely. And similarly, somebody who's been taking Wegovy with no impact is now wondering about trying Manjaro. So again, same advice to you. email in if you're a Boots Online Doctor customer, and we will do our best to support you and give you some advice and make a recommendation as to where to go with that. And again, another switching question. So somebody's asking if they can switch from Manjaro to we gave you tablets. We've now got Manjaro, we gave you tablets that we can prescribe.
Yeah.
They don't want to lose weight, they just want to maintain.
Yeah, you can, if you wish, you can switch over just for maintenance. You can again just maintain on Manjaro or we give injections as well. So that's up to you. I think the biggest sort of decider tends to be, how much you sort of pay and sort of like practicalities. Obviously, the tablet's a little bit more practical, not to have to inject every day, and if you're traveling, not to have to keep it in a fridge and stuff. But generally, you can maintain on Wegovy tablets, injections, or Manjaro injections. So yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so I'm going to take a question from somebody who has got very limited mobility and is on oxygen and really struggling to exercise, and therefore weight loss is impacted taking Manjaro. Lost 14 kilograms, well done, over a year, but I feel a gap in my regime because of the lack of exercise. Any advice? Well, we do have our wonderful weight loss videos, which are designed for anyone at any stage. The NHS also have a series of wheelchair videos for people to get moving. But I think it is exactly, what we were saying earlier. You have to be real in where you are. So, is there a limb in your body? Are your arms the area that you could potentially do a little bit of movement and strength with? We're talking about strength here. We're not talking bodybuilding, we're talking building strength. So even if it were that you could get someone to pass you some baked bean cans or some tins of tomatoes, and you just had one in one arm and you just did that with one arm and then you swapped and did it with the other arm, maybe do one in the morning, one in the afternoon, depending on your exhaustion. You're on oxygen. So this is going to be something to race into. It's about doing it very gently and building it up slowly. So I think start where you are, be really kind to yourself, and maybe keep a notebook of what you're managing and just start really, really slowly and try and do 5 repetitions on each arm each day. And if you manage that, then move it up and let us know. If you're a Boots Online Doctor customer, do message in and we'll try and give you some more specific advice. But I think we have to really understand where we sit, and we're not in a race and we're not in a competition, and it is about your body, your journey, and doing what you can to support your health. Losing the weight would be a huge support to your overall health. So let's see that for what it is. It's really positive. So don't start comparing yourself to others. You've obviously got some health issues which are really problematical. So just be kind and see what you can do very gently. I hope that helps. I really genuinely do. Somebody's saying they've started with Wegovy on the lowest dose, and how do they know how to increase? That's over to you, Sanam, for that.
Yeah, so you can't take reggae. I mean, generally, we don't normally advise people to increase if they're having any side effects. So you might need to stay on it a bit longer if you are. I think you notice that your hunger comes back after sort of 5 days, which is unusual because Wegovy, whenever you inject it, tends to peak after a few days, and then that level in your system tends to go down towards the end of the week. What it might mean, yeah, you might benefit from a higher dose. So if you are finding that the hunger's kicking in again, you might benefit from a higher dose. So you might need to go up doses, but I would only do that. Maybe discuss it with whoever your prescriber is, just to see if it's suitable based on sort of your side effects and how long you've been on the current dose for and stuff. But yeah, you can increase the dose. There's no sort of might be a sign that you might need to increase your dose, because remember the lowest dose, it doesn't always work as effectively for all. But you do need to gradually increase to allow your body to adjust to any side effects and adjust to the medication, so you can't jump up doses and stuff. But again, just message your prescriber, whoever that is, whether it's us or not, and then we can advise on what the most appropriate sort of steps are, whether you need to increase or stay on the same dose.
Okay, so people, lots of more questions. We'll try and get through a couple and then we'll have to sign off. I just want to read this brilliant comment that we've received in the Q&A, which is from someone who has come off weight loss medication. They noticed their hunger came back, noticed they were gaining a few pounds. They returned to noticing what they were eating. They upped their protein a lot. They ramped up their exercise again. They're drinking more. They're going to bed earlier. My goodness, you're working so hard. Well done. And now the lost weight is happening again, feeling really good. Definitely doesn't want to go backwards. That would be way worse than maintaining the lifestyle. And isn't that interesting? Like, actually, which is worse, maintaining your lifestyle or gaining the weight? Good point. Really love it. Started taking collagen. Can this contribute to weight gain? We wouldn't believe so. So see, maybe try a week without it, try a week with it, see what happens. We all do have slightly personalized effects to these supplements, so see how it is affecting you. Well done though. That's a really positive message to send to everyone else. So thank you for sharing that. A couple of health related, somebody with fluid retention, so weight fluctuates, which is very disconcerting. I would say track other things apart from the weight. If you have fluid retention, hopefully that may settle down in time as your body recalibrates and settles. There may be physiological or medical reasons for that that you can't have total control of. So really look at your energy, look at your sleep patterns, look at the things that you can track, which are parameters of health that aren't just about weight. I think that's really important. Somebody's saying they've got high blood pressure since started taking Manjaro. What can they do? I would say message into your weight loss medication provider. It is really something that we would want to answer on a one-to-one rather than a webinar format. So thanks for asking. Please do email in, whether it's to ourselves or to whoever you're getting your weight loss medication from. They should give you some solid advice. And thank you for bringing that to our attention. Cravings we've covered, so hopefully you've picked up on that. So yes, I think we're over. I think we've gone over our time. So thank you so much to everyone who has been with us today. So sorry about the IT problems you've experienced joining the call, getting the links, listening to the sound coming and going. So we really apologize for all of those technical issues, but hopefully you've taken something away today that is going to be helpful. We do have a feedback form, which we love to hear from you, either what you're going to do differently, what you're taking away, what you'd like to hear more about. We really want to know from you as much as possible, don't we, Sanam? Because it can help
Yes.
us make sure that we're helping you, and that's what we're here for. Sanam, last words.
No, just good luck for the following week and the weeks ahead, but just make sure you keep those sort of, habits that you've got in place and just keep them for the long term, and that should help you.
Yeah, very much from all of us. And thank you so much to Gareth. Sorry, it's been quite tricky for you today, Gareth. So thank you for being with us and have a great week. We're back next Monday. Come back, tell us how you've got on. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, everyone.